Yeah, we got a couple more minutes. We'll get going. I'm sure everybody knows that I am recording, and I will post this. I want to poll everybody and see whether you would prefer to have this posted as unlisted, so that only somebody with a link can get it, or if you want it done publicly so anybody on YouTube can see it. It doesn't matter to me, but I just kind of want to see what everybody thinks about it, and go with the majority. From my perspective, unlisted people that only folks that request the link, or again, I would post it in groups IO, and then I've got a small email list for folks that are interested in this but are not on groups IO. I would post it there so that everybody that kind of wants it has access to the link, or I can do it publicly. And if we do it publicly, I mean, I can allow comments on it, and that's fine. But usually you get a lot of self-appointed experts that is going to poo-poo everything that's said. So I tend to avoid posting publicly, but for this, I mean, it's up to whatever the group wants. This is all for you guys. I mean, obviously I want to gain something here too, as far as learning more about JS8, but okay, well, it is 8 p.m. Central Time, and my UTC clock says 2:00. So I think probably we'll go ahead and get started. And for those of you that have already been listening to me babble on here, normally I do presentations. It's a start to finish, and we start with downloading, which tonight wouldn't work very well because the JS8Call website is down, at least for now. And then go all the way through to getting people up to where they can get their first QSO. And so I'm not going to do that tonight. This is again, is all about whatever you guys want to talk about. I have had some questions come in that people had requested that I ask on their behalf, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. I'm pretty shy, but not that shy. So I'm just going to pick first one off the list. It says, what is a basic contact in JS8? And I think that means what does a basic contact look like, from CQ to logging it as a completed thing. So everybody can see that I'm on 40 meters. I'm going to throw out a heartbeat here real quick, and then whoever the best signal is, I'll identify that person, and we'll just do a quick QSO if that's okay with everybody. You want to do that? Well, WD5 EED right now is, oh, gotta let Paul in again. Okay, there we go. We'll see who's in auto mode right now. And anytime anybody has a question, just give me a shout out. I'm trying to watch for hands up, but if I miss you, just go ahead, and if you're muted, unmute and sing out, because I got some really great signals actually. It looks like KF0 GGV, or GGF rather, is about the best of it. I'm just gonna go ahead and send a CQ. What normally happens is, you can see that, okay, we got one CQ up here. I'm going to highlight that person, and I've changed mine macros a little bit. I'm going to hit reply, and I don't know if you can read that or not, but it says, in reply to your CQ, because sometimes people don't get it. Like, yeah, I'm asking, how do you copy me, because I want to talk to you. And I would like to think that this person will respond with a signal report. I will send a signal report back, And I will also then throw in if I want to say, hey, how's it going in wherever, because I've got my assistant running here, and so I can do a quick QRZ lookup, which that's oh sure, macros. Yes, I will. Let's see, where were we? 1550. Oh, he's in fast mode. I'm going to go. And so am I. Now you see this individual matched or got pretty close to my offset here. I don't see it. He didn't respond directly to me, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm going to go back. My usual spot is 1750, which is middle of the subband here. Okay. How about if one or more of you want to throw out a CQ, see if I can pick you up, and then I'll just respond. Got a couple in the waiting room here. Okay, I'm going to deselect here. So yeah, the person that responded or sent CQ before, I basically said how copy, and I did not get a response. So either doesn't have a, can't hear me. I was almost, see, what am I doing for power? I'm only doing 70 watts right now, so I'm pretty far down south. And if anyone in the group here has sent a CQ, I'm not seeing it. Let me talk about macros just for a little bit. And the easiest way to talk about, I mean, you got heartbeat acknowledge. So that basically just turns it on or off. I'm going to go up here to mode, and you can see I've got these items enabled. Enable simultaneous decoding of all speeds. So if somebody's doing a turbo mode, I'll be able to decode it. They might not hear me if I respond, but I should get most of it. Probably what I'll get is mostly missing frames. Enable auto reply. I keep that on, but I'll show you another setting that goes along with this in a minute. Enable heartbeat networking. Heartbeats are an irritation to a lot of folks, but that's what populates your call activity on the right hand side. So I'd leave that on, but then I go into another setting that says, yeah, but suspend that while you're in a QSO. In other words, if I got somebody highlighted over here, it stops the heartbeat mechanism. And then enable heartbeat acknowledgement. So when people send out a heartbeat, I will auto respond to that. And again, that helps me populate the right hand side of my screen so I can see who's on and who isn't. As far as the behavior, if we go up here under the general tab in settings and then under behavior, you can immediately transmit CQ, reply, etc. from the menu, write log file, suggest alternative word choices because my spelling is atrocious and I know how to spell that. Check for software updates. Hopefully that'll be something we can see one of these days. Display distance in miles. Somewhere here is the allow transmission sending standards. Let's go back under station. Oh, there it is. Under the networking and auto reply tab, the pause heartbeat transmissions while in a QSO. And again, that means when a call sign is selected. So, but the rest of the macros then are essentially the ones that we have control of. Those of us, I mean, any of us using the program. have control of some of these, and like the CQ message. Yeah, if I send this out, I can go into here, and again, I'm in general in the station tab. I can type anything I want when I send a CQ. I just left it default, but you know, you could type anything in here. If you're just doing a parks on the air or a summits on the air or something like that, you could go in here, CQ POTA or CQ SOTA, whatever, and send it out that way. That would be where you would want to change that. Your reply message, and this is if somebody sends out a CQ, normally that's how I start a QSO. Somebody else has called CQ, I'll come in here and say in reply to your CQ, just so that they know that I'm actually responding to their CQ, which didn't work, obviously. And that's what I get more often than not, is somebody will send a CQ, and if somebody doesn't come back right now, then they go on and do something else. So patience, it's all about patience. You set up your station info with whatever information you feel comfortable in sharing. And for station status, it comes up with some default thing I've never found a use for. So I type something in here. If somebody requests a status, they'll get an automatic reply. So I may be around, I might not, I don't know. Leave a message, I'll get back to you. But that's essentially it. Under behavior, you can change like your end of transmission when the party you're conversing with is done transmitting. You get the diamond. You can change that to any ASCII character that you want to. And the same with missing frames. It comes default with the 4 dots. You can change that. I had mine for a while with 4 question marks, and that kind of ended up just frustrating me, so I went back with the dots. But anyway, you can make that anything you want. You can make it a completely different ASCII character or whatever, put that in there. And then networking, you can enable, disable some things there. Radio. Just going to see if there's anything else we could change there. I do highly recommend that you have your APRS stuff enabled. I use that frequently if I'm operating remote somewhere or operating portable. I can send an email or a text message, SMS text message via APRS, the APRS-IS server, by having this active. I also have all of the UDP and TCP things enabled over here. I left all of the default port numbers and that kind of stuff in mind, and I use some auxiliary software like JS8 Assistant. I can use that if I'm going to run a JS8Call net and things like that. I've never used these loggers. I don't really know anything about them, so they're not enabled. There are a lot of people that use them and like them, but I never have. Let's see what else. Frequencies is not really part of macros. Saved messages. I do this quite a bit. I was in up until basically the end of December. I was in Texas Races. I am not now currently, for reasons that have nothing to do with Races. I was really sad about leaving that, but I have things going on that doesn't allow me the time to adequately spend with the Races group. So rather than having my my DRO suffer through my lack of attentiveness, I just exited. So anyway, you can see some saved messages in here that I used, and I sent these out on a fairly regular basis because we were trying to get more interest in the Races groups within Texas to use this as part of their MCOM toolbox, and it to a certain degree was successful. But I would send these out. I had these set up as group calls, and I could send this message out periodically and just see who had the radio on, who had it on JS8 call, and who was on the same band I was, and I would get an automatic signal report back, that kind of stuff. Anything that you send out on a fairly regular basis, you might want to go ahead and go ahead and save that in here. You just come in and type what you want here and hit add, and it'll come down and add in there. That's pretty much it as far as the macros that we have control of. Everything else has been hard coded by Jordan. So, and like I said, there was one thing I just learned here fairly recently within the last couple of weeks. if you hover over the CQ macro button like I'm doing right here and right click, well, you can send a CQ out every minute, 5 minutes, 10, 15, or some number of minutes of your choosing. So didn't know that till recently. Okay, I've babbled enough. Who has things that they would like to tell us or ask questions? I'm wide open.
Well, there is one comment I can make about the what I do for replying to a CQ. I load it up with ending with SNR ? So I know how well the guy on the other end is actually receiving me. If he comes back with -19 or -20, I don't even bother starting the CQ.
Yeah.
If he comes back with a decent signal to noise ratio, then I'll try and initiate a QSO.
That's a good point. In fact, I'll just make that change right now.
And the how copy you have to manually respond to that. You don't get an auto response to that.
Yep. Yeah, I'll just change that.
This triggers an auto response, so I know right away whether somebody can actually talk to me or not.
Yep, that's an excellent point, because you're right. -19, maybe if you go into slow mode and do your filtering, and we can talk about digging that one little signal out through filtering, but that's also, you kind of got to work that with your radio, so it depends on what you're running. I mean, most of us here probably have a decent radio as far as being able to do notch filters and bandpass and those kinds of things. So I run a Kenwood because I've always been a Kenwood guy. Most everybody here probably has a 7300, I'm guessing. I wouldn't mind having one, but I've just never launched on that path.
Sorry, I'm a fan of American radios. I have a K3, a KX3, and a Flex.
Well, now if you ever get more than you want, I could send you my address, and you could send it down here. I'll keep it.
The KX3 is for those portable things,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those are good radios.
I bought a K3 because I figured when I got licensed and retired, I decided I'd get a good radio. And then, the K4 was going to come out, and it was going to come out, and it was going to come out. And decided, what the heck, I like pan adapters, so I bought a Flex.
Yep.
The other thing that you might want to consider as well is if you operate in different ways at different times, set up what you want the way you want it, then go to the configuration tab and save that configuration with a name that is meaningful.
Yep.
I do, for instance, I have one that's set up for winter field day, another one for field day, for QSO parties and so on. And it loads up the macros and everything else with what I need to run that way. And I can switch to it immediately. That includes logging setup.
I 100% agree. And I have a number of laptops that I use, both Linux and Windows. And when I go do like Parks on the Air, do any portable operation, I'll take one or more of the laptops. And I've got profiles set up because I'll run I've got a FT891 that I run for portable most of the time. But if just for giggles, if nothing else, I've got an Elenco, an SR8, DX SR8, and it's strictly a no frills kind of radio, but it's kind of fun to run. I mean, it's 100 watts or nothing pretty much, and so you can't do too much portable, at least on batteries, but you will burn them off pretty quick. But it's kind of fun. Anyway, point being is I set a profile up for each radio, and I use FL Rig actually on one of my Linux machines. I don't know why it won't take the ham library for JS8. I have to use FL Rig with it, and I've not pursued trying to find out why that is. I have 3 other Linux laptops that work fine with the hamlib files that's provided, but that one doesn't for whatever reason. It's the same. I'm running Linux Mint on 2 of them. I'm running Linux Mint 21.3 or 20.3 rather, and So I don't get what the difference might be. But I've got one little 32-bit netbook. It'll test your patience. And I run MX Linux on that one, and it's kind of fun to play around with and stuff. Normally I use that as my little satellite tracker. I'll get GQRX running on it on one of those little cheapy dongles and track satellites. And especially if I set up in a campground or somewhere, and I'll put up a little sign or something that says, hey, I'm doing amateur radio stuff. If you got questions, stop in. And people kind of like watch it. Oh, you keep track of satellites? Wow, that's pretty cool. Like, well, yeah, it's cool, I guess. I guess it is. It's fun. I enjoy it. But anyway, I'll set that up usually, and because it's all receive only, and that thing runs so slow. It's a 2 gigabyte single core processor Toshiba thing. So anyway, yes, those are good suggestions. Thank you. Anybody else got anything you want to ask? You want to say, hey, dummy, you're doing it wrong, or anything like that?
Yeah. So to recap with Ted, you initially cloned your configuration and then renamed it.
Yes.
Winterfield, whatever. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. You go in and rename it, and then a lot of times the way I have done it, I don't know if it's the right way or wrong way, but I'll just clone whatever's up right now. I would just clone that, and then go in and rename it. Then I come back in and change the settings the way I want them and save them under that continued name. You might be able to do all your setting changes and then clone it. I've never tried it that way because I was always afraid of losing my initial configuration. Although I've told people over and over in presentations that what's the worst case scenario? It doesn't take anything to download JS8 and reinstall it. I mean, you got a couple of folders on your hard drive that's you need wanting to go clean those out when you uninstall. But yeah, it's really not a huge pain in the rear to reload, start over. So but I'm a victim of my own my own fear on losing it, because well, and I've got, I do WSJTX and FT8, FT4, JT65, whatever. And then I also do, like what we were talking earlier, the Hellschreiber stuff, net on 40 meters on Thursday nights. And then I'm also an Olivia fan of the Olivia mode, and try to practice that. PSK 31 course is still way popular. So I'm always concerned with what settings did I mess up this time. That's why I like my Kenwood, and y'all would like your 7300s and those kinds of things where that has the sound card built in, because I don't have to worry about. I've got signal links. I've got several of them, and I've got a DigiRig, and I'm going to have a DRA, but it's just yeah, it's all about fiddling with the controls.
Wayne, could you go over your logging? Do you bother to log any of your JS8Call contacts?
Well, let me tell you. I'll tell you how I handle it. I'll go over how it is done. Certainly, I don't often log a lot of calls anymore, and the reason for that is that it's kind of an annoyance to me in a way. But if it's like a worked all states, I don't have worked all states because I don't have anybody in, I think it's Vermont, and I don't know why I can't. it just hasn't worked out. So if there's a grid square that I know I need or something, I'll grab that and log it. But I log to QRZ. So if somebody else does log it and goes to QRZ, I get a notification saying, hey, they want confirmation. Well, then I'll go back and add it, because you got all text. Yeah, what was it? All dot text, I think it is, that logs everything. I don't know who all knows that that's going on, but if you've used JS8Call for a year or more and haven't checked that all dot text, it's a big file, let me tell you, because it logs everything. But anyway, I'll go back and confirm that real quick and make that confirmation so that they can have their confirmation. So I've got, I don't know, I haven't looked lately, but I've probably only got 3,000 some calls, maybe not even 3,000. in reality, I've been probably closer to 7,000, but I don't log very often. I always log DX, always, even Canadian, Mexico, Central America, anything that I consider DX, I do log all of those. And so anyway, if I'm in a QSO with somebody, I'll just highlight this feller here, KB7 ITU. If I'm gonna log, I can just go up here to log, add log entry, and it's going to come up and do this kind of information. Now, as far as the signals, I just kind of base on what I see here on the screen as far as what's sent and received through the course of the QSO. That's one thing I like about VAR-AC is that logs all that stuff for you. But anyway, I'll just grab those. And as far as start and stop times, if you go up here and look at the UTC values, you can figure out what time. Yeah, like, oh yeah, this is the first time I actually responded to the guy. So you can just highlight that and right click and copy and come down here and paste so you can get your start time, stop time. If that's, I mean, you don't have to log a stop time necessarily, it'll still count, but yeah, a lot of people do. And so anyway, you do that, throw in a person's grid. If you're doing, like I said, I used JS8 Assistant software, and on that you can just right click whoever pops up via the APIs, and that's available in JS8 and JS8Call, and you can right click on that and do a quick QRZ lookup, and so you can pop in the grid and name and comments, whatever, and then you just click add to log. What I really would like to see Jordan do is do some auto logging, kind of like VAR-AC.
Thank you.
Yep, you're very welcome. But that's essentially, I mean, you can, I don't ever do that, that erase all .text. What I do is at like in this past January, it was around the end of the first week or so of January, I went into that text file and I cleaned out everything. I archived, just copied and pasted everything that was from 2022 into a different text file and saved it and then cleaned it out, because that can turn into an 80 megabyte file pretty quick if you run JS8 for a couple of years. And then your JS8Call, if you want to erase it, make sure if you are logging and you get your log file moved to wherever it is, LOTW or wherever you're moving it to, make sure you come back in here so you don't get duplicates. Just erase your ADI file. And I have made that mistake and suffered through that. Well, you're sending duplicates in. Okay, sorry. I'll try to do better. Okay. Deselect. All right.
Did you say JS8 Assistant?
Yeah. Let's see if I can pop that open. The problem is
I looked for it and couldn't find it.
I'll show you what it looks like. Probably the easiest way is going to be, let me drag it over here. The problem I have with this is sometimes I got to kill JS8. When I got over, I mean, I've got two different computers running to accomplish what we're doing here tonight. And this is essentially what it is. And you can see that, not sure why we went black and white, probably due to, oh, those are all heartbeats. What this does is just takes the API that's available, a hook, if you will, whatever, from JS8, and brings it over and logs that information over here. It doesn't really log it, but it shows up on here, and you can tell who's see, these are all heartbeats, so you can come up here to these little dots and do hide heartbeat, and so then only CQs and QSOs will show up on this program. But when you highlight one of those, if we'll just highlight one here, you can.
Oh, I
you can
found
go,
it. It's Rocket Man RC. It's under, is where you go to get it.
that sounds real familiar.
Could you repeat that, please? What was it?
Rocket Man RC.
Thank you.
I use this if I run a net, and I've only done it once. But what I do is we'll pick a frequency off of the regular JS8 call frequencies by a little, 5 kilohertz or something like that, one way or the other. And so that way I start with a blank screen right here, and then I'll throw out a signal report, if it's a group call, whatever. And so anyway, then this will start to populate. So then I can highlight this, and I can keep track of who I've talked to and who hasn't. So I'll go back after I throw out a signal report to a group call, and I get all these responses coming back in automated. I can pick one and go, okay, you're up first. What comments do you have? And that kind of thing. When they're done, then I can go on to the next one, highlight the next one, and it's just move down the list that way. And then when the net conclude, I mean, when you get to the bottom of the list, you can throw out another signal report, and anybody that hasn't showed up before, they'll show up here at the top of the list, and depending on how you sort it. But anyway, it's just a handy way to sort things out and keep track of if you're doing a JS8 net. So I actually use this one most of the time if that's all I'm running is JS8Call, and I'm not running any other software on the machine. I will run this. But like I said, right now I got like VNC server running on this machine and viewer running on my Linux machine, and yada, yada, yada. So sometimes when I run this JS8, I want to close it now, but sometimes JS8, this will slick over, like it's not really picking it. It's gone, it goes deaf. And that is the interaction it has with the software. So the only way I can do, if that happens, the only way I can do that is completely close out of JS8 and everything else that's running on the computer and start it back up. And usually it will fix it. I have had to do a complete restart before to get it fixed, but normally it'll come back with just restarting JS8. There's one called APRS. If you go into YouTube and look for APRS call, there's a young man, and I can't call his name right now, but I'm old and I forget stuff. Anyway, do that search in YouTube, and he has built, it's just a simple little, it only runs in Windows. You can run it in Python on other formats. You can do the whole make file and all that kind of stuff in Linux, but he has built just a binary for Windows, and all it is you can decide whether you want to send a text message, or if you want to send an email, or if you simply want to identify yourself on an APRS map, like aprs.fi, something like that. You just select what you want to do and who that message is going to, whether it's to a phone number for a text message, or if it's to an email, if you want to send an email out, a short one, because APRS, as we all know, is fairly limited in its ability to send messages. Amazing program, don't get me wrong, I love APRS, but it's pretty limited in the messaging side. Anyway, all this little program does is it lays out the command in the format that is required for the APRS IS server to recognize it. So you go out to JS8Call, then you copy that out of this APRS call. You just copy and paste it into JS8 and hit send. And that's when we go back to the configuration settings under reporting. If you've got this enabled for spotting on APRS IS, anybody that has that enabled, and it's enabled by default, so you have to want to disable it on purpose. Anyway, if you have that set, then somebody near you hears that message, and it automatically goes via internet to that server, the APRS server, and APRS then takes care of sending the message the rest of the way to whatever its recipient is. Now that's a one-way thing. If you send like a text message to somebody via this route, it's only going to them. They can't hit respond or reply and have it come back. It won't work that way. If you have an APRS capable, like a HT or something, that'll work. You can get messages back and forth, but not on here. But one thing that you can do then, once you figure out what the format is, you have to have a certain number of spaces, whether there's a character there or not. There's like 9 spaces before the colon and 7 spaces after, whatever the format is. You figure that out, and you can spot yourself on the POTO website. If you don't have internet access, you can, the APRS call won't work for it, but at least you know the format. You can plug that in there, and anybody that can hear you on JS8 will be able to pick that up and send it to the APRS server, and then that'll go out, and so you get spotted for POTA. I assume it works the same for summits on the air. I'm a flatlander, so I wouldn't know, but it's kind of handy. And there's more stuff going on all the time. We talked briefly about the Julian, the fellow in Finland, put out the microblogging video here recently. And there's a gentleman in the UK that is writing the code to make that happen. And I think that's just a great idea. If ever we get to the point where we can't always believe what we read, maybe we need to find more places to read and decide for ourselves, that kind of thing. But also in an emergency, big time. And I'm an MCOM guy, and in an emergency, if you need to get some news out to somebody, this would be an excellent way for a group of people to be able to go, oh, there's a new message out here, I want to grab that and read it. Now, obviously, there's some limitations on size, and JS8 is not a fast mode. Even in turbo mode, you're not going to get a lot of data through in a big hurry unless you have an excellent signal. So let's see. Aha, somebody noticed. Here's a thing I do sometimes just to mess with people in a good way, I'll get on here usually early in the day, and I'll see somebody that sends a heartbeat 4 or 5 times in a row and doesn't call CQ. Typically, I'll highlight that person. You know, I'm not going to actually do it here, but I'm going to highlight a person and right click and see if I've saved a message for them before, but I can do a store message, and I can come in here and store a message on my machine for that person, whatever it is. And in this case here, somebody just figured out this is message 88. So this would have happened probably 2 weeks ago. I sent a message that said, hey, I see you've been heart beating. I hope you're having an outstanding day. Stay safe. And 73 from KN2Z. And why I tuck TN on the end there, I'm not from Tennessee. I wouldn't mind being from Tennessee, but I'm not. And that has confused a few people. But anyway, what happens is, I want to point this out. When your machine sends out a heartbeat, and people that have auto acknowledge or auto response to heartbeats, it'll come back like this, like mine just did there with this fellow. Like, okay, I heard your heartbeat, got you at a -2. But if I have left a message for somebody, in this case, this fellow here, it'll come up, and right at the end, it'll say message ID, whatever. And, you know, a vast majority of us don't notice that, because, and that's something I kind of hope Jordan would fix someday, is this needs to be more visible somehow, the fact that there is a message waiting. So always, when you're sending heartbeats, take a look at your screen once in a while and see if there's a message ID at the end, because I probably have left you one at some point. If I have no one selected, you can't do this if you have anybody selected, but if you go no one selected and go to view and show message inbox, see, I still have a bunch of these. These are all folks that at one point or another was sending heartbeats and without CQs, and so I left them a little, hey, I see you're out there doing heartbeats. And all this is just my little cutesy way to say, hey, you know, I'm available for a QSO if you want to talk, I'm here. But they've got to notice it first, and so that'll just be a reminder for folks. Just watch your inbox here, your message receive box.
A question: how wide of a bandwidth does this take up? Because yours seems to be going to 26 down at the bottom, and mine's only going to 22. How do you set that or control that?
That would come down here on your waterfall off to the right hand side. There are 3 tabs down here: control, display, and timing. If you come over to display, this bins per pixel, if you change that to a 3, it's going to give you more of a bandwidth view here.
I see.
Actually, this is all pretty cool stuff. You can change. I don't know if anybody noticed on Groups IO here. I don't know, probably a month ago. So I was messing around with one of my laptops and I changed it to some really cool dark mode, mostly green. It looked like something out of probably the 80s. But anyway, I posted that on Groups IO. It's like, hey, anybody else got a cool screen, UI that they've set up? So anyway, yeah, you can set this, you can use this display. It's down here. You can make these, let's see, I'm on Digipan now. You can go to, so you can go to blue. There's a bunch of them here. There's one called Jungle.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all, but you know, so that's why I won't use that. But you
Well,
can
how
change
wide
this.
of an area do people use?
Well, and let's talk about that. That's an excellent segue into something I wanted to talk about, because I got a little rant that I do. I see people doing QSOs below 500 hertz or below 1,000. So let me get this back to, let me just go back to here. If you look on here, it's a little hard to see. I'm going to scoot this over just a little bit. Actually, I want to change that so we can see the whole band here. See, I changed that to 1. I'm going to change that back to 2. Okay, so down here, you see an amber area. It runs from 500 to 1,000. That's your heartbeat area. That's where the software automatically picks an open frequency down here, somewhere between 500 and 1,000. And I'll talk about bandwidth more here in a little bit. But anyway, so if you're doing a QSO with somebody down here, you are taking up space for other people to call heartbeats. Now, where I'm at down here in South Texas, that's not really an issue. It's not that busy, but you can see this evening on 40 meters, there's some activities. This is my band activity over here, and it's pretty full screen. And everything, I got to set it an hour. It drops everything off that's older than that. So anyway, if you're going to do a QSO, a call CQ or something that way, you need to pick something between 1,000 and 2,500, which is right here. This is the QSO CQ. This is the region you need to be using right in here. Anything above that, you're starting to get into for all of the frequencies that Jordan had picked for the default values, 7, 30 meters, 20 meters, and so on. If you go up in here, you're starting to get into other popular frequencies for like PSK or whatever the case is. You're starting to impinge on other people's ability to use their little bit of the frequency. Well, I have to share. I understand that. I'm not. I'm in favor of that. But this is kind of generally JS8 land right here, and so I try to keep QSOs. In fact, a lot of times, if it is really busy and somebody's trying to do a QSO down here in the bottom, I just ignore them. I don't respond, because they need to be up here. That is listed in the manual, the user manual that Jordan put out, but it's not like it doesn't jump right out at you. You kind of got to dig for it a little bit. But now bandwidth, we'll go to mode. This shows your bandwidths up here. You can see that slow is 25 hertz. And it's 50 hertz for normal, and that's where I normally run. It's on JS8 normal. That's 16 words a minute. If you're on fast, like I'm currently set to, that's a 10-second transmit cycle. Actually, about 8 seconds out of that, because it gives your transmitter a rest for 2 seconds. But anyway, that's 80 hertz and then 160 hertz for turbo. So that's the actual bandwidth. And again, unless you have excellent signal, I mean, fast usually works pretty well. Normal almost always works. If you got a really weak signal, you can go to slow, but slow it's aptly named. It is a very slow mode, but it will get the message through. It's much like you can send this. A lot of times you can send a text message and it'll get through when you can't call somebody on your cell phone and have them hear you on with voice. So it's kind of the same principle as far as it's more reliable text wise, but it's just painfully slow. But that's the whole thing about bandwidth that I know about. Yeah, another thing while we're down here on this right side of the waterfall, you got control. Obviously, you can set your offset here where you're at on the sub band. You can set it here, but you can also set it. Just click on that and just type in what you want. If you want a QSY, you can set. I mean, if you got somebody that's running, say up here at 2200, you can center on that. But you can do the same thing with, if somebody's running, let's see if I can find one, 1188. I'm just going to right click and say jump to. And now I'm right on top of him. So if that's a weak signal coming in, I mean, that's a +7, obviously it isn't. But if it was, say, like we talked about earlier, a -19, and I really want to talk to the guy, I'd go ahead and move to that. I would also match his offset, the time delta. This person is 0.2 of a second off of what everybody else is doing. So, should we talk about time delta and what that really means? Time signals, and I'll cover it just briefly. If there's any questions, I can go more in depth. But with FT8, for example, you need to be pretty close. It's a good idea to have some kind of ulterior alternate method of keeping your computer time up to speed. It is a JS8's similar, very similar. Does same thing. It operates in cycles, and you need to match as far as transmit and receive cycles. You need to match that as close as you can. It isn't as fussy as WSJTX, but it is still pretty fussy. If you're 2 seconds or more off of what everybody else is doing, you're going to have trouble decoding what other people are sending to you, and they're going to have trouble decoding what you're sending out. So if you keep an eye on the time up here, see, I got my call sign and my grid square and UTC time right there. If I get somebody, I'll just jump to one of these and say jump to match theirs. See, they're a +200 0.2 fast, so I'm going to go 0.2 slow. I don't understand that logic, but that's the way it comes out. So anyway, it tells you the time delta. Now I can more likely to be able to talk to this person if I was having trouble decoding or something like that. And I do see from time to time, I'll see people that's like 1500 milliseconds or 1.5 seconds off. So if I need to talk to them, I will go and match their time delta and increase the likelihood that I will have a QSO with that person. If you get to that point, when you get all done, you go, well, I need to get this back to 0. The easiest way is to come back down here to this little batch of tabs and go to timing and scroll all the way to the bottom and just say reset time drift. And that puts you back on time with everybody else. Now I use a GPS dongle, and I take the time off GPS. So mine stays pretty consistent. But so doing this reset time drift, if you find that you're having trouble or whatever, you see that other people are drifting further and further out, it might not be them, it might be you. So you can come down here and hit reset time drift. That does not change the time on your computer. It just lines you up with the same time base that everybody else is using, or most everybody else. What you're shooting for is a 0 milliseconds here. It's one other thing on time that you can do. Actually, I've got that linked. If you go to time.is and then select, go over here and select UTC. There is a place on here. I don't see it now. Anyway, there's normally a link on there. You can click and it'll come up and tell you how far off you are, if you're half a second fast or half a second slow or whatever. You can use this to figure out where you're at, and I mean, you can go in here and set your time manually, and it's going to get you by for a while. Where this is important, see, I'm on connected to the internet and stuff. So like I said, between GPS and internet, I'm going to stay pretty accurate. But if I'm out operating portable, and I don't happen to have a GPS dongle, then I'm just, that's the nature of the beast. Your computer's good at keeping time, but it's not perfect. So this is really helpful for portable operation. You can jump in here and hit reset time drift and talk for probably QSO for several minutes before you have to worry about it again. But you just keep an eye on, and that's, you can add this time delta column up here. You just right click up here and say, what columns do you want to show, and just add those. I'm doing an awful lot of talking, not much answering. I don't want to monopolize. Greg froze on us. It's either that or he's very good at holding still. All right, we're at 50 minutes. My internet connection is still not totally stable, apparently. What questions do we have? Anything anybody wants to discuss? If you do, sing out. I'm gonna keep covering some things. If you look down here, I was looking for a really weak signal. Right now, I'm not really seeing any. Let's see, what's the worst one I got up here? Here's a -18. So this was at 2531. It's a little above where I would normally do this. Everybody see that all right? It's up here. If I wanted to focus in on this particular, let's say he's transmitting and it's just barely in there, and somebody else is operating, sort of close to us or whatever, you can come in here and enable your filter. Again, that's the tabs down here at the end of your waterfall, and go to control and enable your filter. And then you can set this filter up to be wherever you want it to be. You can move it back over. First of all, that changed modes. I want to stay normal. This is showing, this particular filter is showing right where that guy's transmitting right now. And you can narrow this. You can see the width is currently set to 224 Hertz. You can narrow that. You can focus that right in on whatever signal you want. And at that point, your software is only looking at that specific point on the subband. It doesn't matter what else is going on RF wise, anywhere around it. It's only going to focus on that. And you can set this number up here. What was that? 22, 30, 25, 31. And again, you got to fuss with it a little bit. There we go. And see, you can actually see a signal there. There's a little bit of a signal right there. And I've got, again, with your mode being 50 Hertz, this is set at 70 Hertz. If I click the right button. It's 70, so as low as it'll go. But anyway, it'll focus right in. You can set that. You can set a minimum and maximum, like you want. I'll look over here and I'll look over here, or anything in between. So it's kind of handy. And then the first time I did this, I panicked a little bit, because like, okay, how do I get back to where I was? Well, it turns out if you just uncheck enable filter, you're right you're right back where you started. So but I was able to make my first DX QSO via JS8 using that method as a fellow in the UK. I want to save some of these questions for next time around, and hopefully you see some benefit to what we're doing here. And I'm hoping that you'll be back and bring a friend or 2 or 3. Because I think we were up to 12 people at one point, and we dropped back a little bit now. But like I said, it's open forum, so it's not, it's no big deal. You stop in when you can and leave when you have to. Okay. Any other questions for me at this time?
Just one. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I could run through some of these other questions I have here, but I'd rather answer your specific questions. So jump right in there.
I was just wondering if anybody had this software working with Log4OM.
Oh, I've heard that question asked before, but I don't remember the answer to that. Going to show you this JS8Call thing.
I've posted a couple of links in the chat for JS8 integrated with Log4OM.
Say that.
Can't do. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I didn't catch the question there or the statement.
Oh, just saying, I posted a couple of links in the chat for a YouTube and a blog article for integrating JS8 with Log4OM.
Oh, excellent.
Thank you.
Yes. Good.
So I don't have it myself, so I don't know how good they are, but Google is your friend.
Google is your friend. That's true. Although I DuckDuckGo, but same concept. That APRS call thing I was talking about earlier, this is essentially all it results. I mean, it's a very, very simple, straightforward program, but you pick your SMS, text message, that kind of thing, or if you want to email, if you want to report your grid wherever you're at to the APRS server. And I don't remember what the APRS one is, but like for SMS, you can just type in your phone number that it's going to go to, and then and generate it, and it lays out the, I don't think spreading that out is going to help, but anyway, this puts it in the proper format. So you just copy that, paste it into JS8, hit send, and you're good to go. And that'll work for emails and text messages, and like I said, reporting yourself for grid. I have sent him a message and asked if he would consider adding like Parks on the Air, Summits on the Air, and that kind of thing. I never got a response back. He's probably going, yeah, I got the better things to do with my time. But anyway, he's a very smart young man, and I appreciated that he did this. I just grabbed the exe file from his GitHub page and downloaded it. Virus scanned, of course. I wouldn't want to risk anything, but anyway, yeah, it's pretty cool, little, just simple little program. It doesn't directly tie with APR, I mean with JS8, but it's kind of handy, especially if you're operating portable or out where cell service is sketchy at best. All right, we are at 1 hour now.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep, you're very welcome. Like I said, I hope we're doing the right thing here. I hope I'm sure some of you saw the comment. The guy thinks I'm appropriating groups IO. That's obviously not what I'm doing. Not in this for any kind of financial gain. Some people's just like that. So I'm not going to call anybody out or anything. It's just I mostly ignore it and move on. But I do enjoy doing this. I enjoy doing the presentations, and I've done a bunch of those, both with JS8 as well as VAR-AC and a couple others. So I'm available for if somebody's got a group of individuals that they would like to, well, let's start from here and get everybody here. I've done WinLink, for instance, also. So anyway, that's an available resource, and I want to make this something that we do successfully on at a given point in time. Friday nights is working for me, but if we need to change it, we can change it. How do we feel? I didn't get a definitive answer early on this evening. How do we feel about posting this publicly on YouTube, or would we rather keep it unlisted?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, I mean, just everybody that wants access to it would still have it with unlisted. I mean, they just have to request the link. But I can do it public too. So it, again, doesn't matter to me either.
Yeah,
I think-
Wayne, I have no preference on that. Listed, unlisted, it don't matter.
I think maybe the first one I'll try public and just see how it goes.